When I talk about the core self is the light within us, the part of our soul that is unwounded. It's our individual expression of God. The core self has our talents, our individual personality, our creativity, our passion, our aliveness, our ability to share love. It's the life. It's the joy. It's the laughter. And all of us have that light within us. It's the unwounded aspect of the soul. And this part of us just wants to express. We just want to be able to express this individual aspect of God on the planet. All of our talents and our joy and who we are. We want an opportunity to do that because really that's what we came here to do. Express our love, share our love and our talents and our joy. And we want an opportunity to do this, to express who we really are. So the core self is who we really are, the part of us that is God within us. Now the wounded self, what we call in inner bonding, the child adult, is the abandoned, frightened inner child who got hurt a lot as we were growing up. The part of us that got rejected and shamed, abused in various ways. Part of us that did not get the love that we needed from our parents, from peers, from siblings, from other caregivers, teachers, whoever. This part of us is a learned aspect. This is the wounded part of the soul that has learned many, many fears and false beliefs, because when we didn't get the love that we needed, we concluded a lot of things about that, about ourselves and about other people. And in our wounded self, we concluded that there's something wrong with us. That if we're not getting love, there must be something wrong with us. When we're very little, what we need, as much as we need food and water, is we need love. We need our parents to be connecting to us, to be holding us and tuned into us. And many of our parents, because they didn't know how to be tuned into themselves, had no idea how to be tuned into us. And so, in many ways, we didn't get the love we needed. Some of them just did it out of ignorance, you know, they thought they were loving us. And some of them came from their own abuse. And because they didn't deal with it, they dumped that on us. And it was more than a lack of love. It was very deep abuse. But in either case, if we did not get the love that we needed, we felt an unbearable loneliness and aloneness, because our parents are the ones who are supposed to bring God through to us. We're too little to know how to do that. Our parents were supposed to be the adults to bring that love through to us and help us know who we are, help us know that we are a child of God. But when they didn't know that they had a child of God inside, then they might not have seen us that way. So when we don't get the love we need, we only have one of two ways of seeing this. And even as very little babies, we make decisions. One way we can see it is to see the truth, which is, oh my God, I am here for the next 18 years with parents who have no idea how to love me. Now, what is a child going to feel, an infant going to feel, if they get that truth? That is overwhelming. That is so overwhelming that they may go into despair. The loneliness of the situation might be too big, and they might go into such despair that they may check out. They may die, they may get sick, they may have lots of accidents. Most of us did not make that decision. Most of us did not see the truth. Instead, we went in the other direction. We said, well, they're the grown-ups, they're the adults, they must know what they're doing, so it must be me. If it's not them, it's me. There's got to be some reason I'm not getting love. And if they know what they're doing, because they're the grown-ups, then it must be me. I must have been born defective. I must be flawed, inadequate, somehow unlovable. And this is the beginning of what we call core shame. And core shame is actually a protection against the helplessness and despair of not getting the love that we needed, which is one reason why it's so hard to heal. I've never met a person who did not have some core shame, who did not deep down feel that they just weren't good enough or lovable enough, something was wrong with them. Even if they had the concept that they're born in the image of God and they have this, perfect child inside, born just like God with perfect love, even if they had that intellectual concept, inside they still felt something wrong with me. I'm just not good enough. I'm just not lovable enough. Because even as adults, if we accept the truth of our helplessness over other people loving us and connecting to us, we have to then feel that loneliness. And loneliness is such a difficult feeling to feel that many of us would rather feel shame. Because what shame did for us when we were little, is it took us out of helplessness. Well, if it's my fault, if I'm the bad one, well, then I can figure out a way to be. I can figure out how to be good, how to have power and control. I can manipulate. I can do things right. I can overachieve. I can get angry. I can do all sorts of things to try and have control over getting the love I want. And so going to shame gives us a sense of power, takes us out of powerlessness, helplessness. It still does that today. It still does that today. Because in our relationships, if we're with somebody who's not loving us, think about this for a moment. If you're with somebody who's not loving you, who's angry with you, rejecting you, withdrawing from you, blaming you, isn't it easier to say, what can I do? What am I doing wrong, and what can I do differently? Can I be nicer? Can I, caretake? Can I get angry? What can I do? Can I blame in return? What can I do to get this person to see what they're doing wrong so that they won't pull away from me, so that they'll love me? Isn't it easier to think that there's something I can do than to accept our helplessness over another person's choice to not love us, to not be loving to us, or even loving to themselves? Isn't it easier to think we have some control over what another person is going to do than to accept our helplessness? And so, in order to move beyond our core shame, we have to be willing to really accept the helplessness we have over other people. But this wounded self of ours, which we all have, we've all got a wounded self inside. The very basis of the wounded self is that we want control. That's how it came into being. We want control. We want control over getting the love that we need. And so this wounded self, this child adult, does not want to give up control. We want control over not feeling our pain. And we're going to try and have that control in many, many different ways. Our substance abuse, our process addictions, all the controlling things we do with other people is to not feel this pain, have control over not feeling this aloneness and loneliness and helplessness. I've found that those three feelings are the hardest feelings to feel. This is what we almost always protect against: loneliness, aloneness, and helplessness. And we've got many, many addictive ways of protecting against it. And so this is who the wounded self is. The wounded self is the part of us that even if we do believe in God, we're convinced that God isn't going to be here for us because we're not good enough. And this wounded self resists surrender to God because this part of us is terrified of being controlled. We don't want to be controlled by anybody. We want control, but we don't want to be controlled by other people. We want to be in control, but not controlled. And so this part of us resists. We resist being controlled by others, and we resist being controlled by God. Even if we think we're on a spiritual path, even if we pray, very often we have not really turned our lives over to our higher guidance. We want to be in control. We don't want anything else out there controlling us, especially when the wounded self has projected our parents onto God. If our parents were judgmental and controlling, we think God's judgmental and controlling. If our parents weren't there, they were too busy, we think God is too busy. And so very often we project whatever our experience was with our parents onto God, and why would we want to surrender to a God that's like our parents?